What's up, Bulldogs? All right, I thought we'd talk about Squid Games, the challenge actually on Netflix today, and I know that's kind of an interesting topic for me to be talking about. But I just watched through the whole series, and I think there's a lot of interesting things to learn from that, and some interesting parallels to real life that get exhibited in the show. So first of all, if you're not familiar, Squid Game was a super popular series on Netflix where essentially all these people got kidnapped and they showed up in this room and they had to compete in these games, and basically if they lost they died and only one person could actually win and succeed. So it was pretty high stakes. It was an interesting show. I mean, it was pretty exciting. I enjoyed it. And then recently, Netflix did a real life version of Squid Game where they cast real people, like a real, what do they call it? Those reality TV shows. And I thought it was going to be really, really cheesy when I was like, oh, I'm not going to watch this dumb thing. But I ended up watching the whole thing, and it was super, super interesting. Now, obviously, the stakes weren't death, but it was for I think $65 million or something like that, basically $4.5 million, and it brought out some interesting situations and character traits. And the thing about the show that I found most interesting was that real in reality, if you look at how the show plays out, it is really a large portion luck, right? And I don't say this to be negative, or sometimes people use luck as a pessimistic thing. But what I mean by that is, for example, I won't give away exactly what happened in the show, but the final thing that they did in the show between the last two people was basically a game that had a tiny bit of skill in it, and then a totally random element of those results. So there was a little bit that you could do to influence this, and this reminds me of poker, right? I played poker for a long time, semi-professionally. Was going to really go deep into poker, and I still love the game. But poker, what's really interesting about it is that it is partially skill and partially luck, and over time the skill wins out, right? So in any given hand you can lose just based on luck, even if you do everything perfectly correct. And in any given hand you can win just based on luck, even if you do all the wrong things, aside from folding. If you fold, you're automatically going to lose. But life is so much like that. In fact, there's a really good book by Annie Duke called Thinking a Bet. She was a professional poker player. Let me grab that book real quick. Here we go. So this book by Annie Duke, I highly recommend that you read this book. We'll focus on this here. Oh, that's a nice focus. Um, it talks about basically how to make better decisions, and I learned a lot in the game of poker about decision making, because what she says in the book, which is so true, and every poker player thinks this way, is that in life, right, when you're making decisions, there's always going to be a skill component and a luck component, and you have to be smart about figuring out which it is, right? So if you win, did you win because you got lucky primarily, or did you win primarily because of skill? Now, it's not just luck or skill, it's a combination of the two in some percentage of those things. And if you lose, the same thing. Did you win or did you lose because of luck? Were you just unlucky? Or did you make a mistake? Was it because of skill? And when you can evaluate these things in life, and you can evaluate what is called EV, or the expected value, then you can understand how to make better decisions and how to place yourself in positions where you can win, right? And so Squid Game is very similar to that, in the sense that most of the things that they did, there were some competition, some things that they had to do, and really the competitions they did were really with themselves. And if you think about life, most of competition in life, we think it's against other people, but it's not really against other people. It's really against ourselves, right? If you think about it, what stops you from having six-pack abs, right? What stops you from having the physique that you want? It's not really other people. Yeah, there might be other guys out there, there might be competition, but you could have the physique you want if you actually did the work to do it, right? It's your own obstacles in your way. You're stopping yourself from doing that. If you think about even making money to a degree, right? Like building a business, let's say, I mean, there's so many things today that, because we have the internet, that anyone could do, right? So, for example, this YouTube channel, right? There's nothing really special that I have that you don't have that would prevent you from doing something like this, right? You could, yeah, you might not be as good at certain aspects of it. You might not have all the equipment, but you don't even need that today. You've got the capability with the internet, with a phone camera, and your thoughts and research. You could create a YouTube channel. You could create a business. All that information is accessible to you, right? And so, what's really stopping you from making money? It is you. The knowledge is out there. It's you actually taking the steps. And obviously, having some guidance does help with those things. But my point is that like in Squid Game, right? If you look at just the original game and the challenge game, there's a red light, green light thing, right? Where you're competing against people, but are you really? You're not really competing against anyone because there's a clock, okay? There's a timer, and you have to run when or move when. You can move when the head is turned, when it's green light, and then you have to stop and freeze when it's red light. So even though there's other people there, you're not really competing against them because what they do does not affect your outcome. The same thing where they have this little cookie thing where you have to basically cut out the shape. Okay, again, there's other people there, but what they do, it doesn't influence you in any way. You can just do that on your own. And so much of life is like that. And then you get to the point of the competition where they are the mid part of the competition where most things take place. And most of the eliminations, most of the way that people get out is through social, right? Is through other people eliminating people or choosing people to be eliminated. That is where a majority of that happens, right? And so there's that element to life, which is what are the alliances that you form? How do people perceive you? Do you come across as a person that is either too weak or too strong? If you come across as a person, right? Again, we're talking about this on my Stoic channel. If you haven't checked that out, I'll put a link down below. I do daily videos on Stoic philosophy where I'm reading Seneca's letters to Lucilius and doing a commentary on that. Really good if you would really like to understand and break down these things. But in Stoic philosophy, they talk about, and we're talking about in some of these letters, this idea that that basically, you have to decide, okay, or rather, let me put it this way, okay, when you're interacting with people, you do not want to be scorned, okay? You don't want people to be jealous of you, all right? And so you have to act in the right way. You have to come across to people where you don't come across as too good. If you come across as too good, people will not like you. Okay, they will scorn you. They'll hate you. All right. If you come across as as someone that someone would be jealous of, again, it's an aspect of being too good, then people will be jealous of you. You don't want people to be jealous of you. That's kind of a dangerous place because they're going to try and take what you have, right? So you don't want to brag too much. You don't want to display too much. You want to be somewhat humble in that case. However, you also don't want to appear weak. If you come across as weak, people will take advantage of you and they will pick on you. And so you have to really navigate life in such a way that you're neither going to either of those extremes. And that we saw that in the game. There was an instance where one of the guys just got bullied by this other guy and was forced to pick the worst shape for the cookie thing that made his whole team suffer, or everyone on that group, right? So I think that is another truism in that game in life. And so if you navigate things correctly, and in fact, really the way to navigate is to be helpful, to be as helpful to people as possible, to be useful, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger just put out a book, really good book. I'm listening to the audio version. I'm almost done with it. It is called, what is it? What did he call it? Oh, it's literally Be Useful, 7 Tools for Life. Okay. I definitely recommend it. Arnold is, amazing guy, just a ton of stuff. He's made some mistakes in life. Yes, I agree with that, but I have too, and you have too. All right. And so, where was I going with this? So yeah, so Squid Game, when you think about it, a lot of it is that social skill of not being, even people who were too friendly, all right, they got in trouble, right? Because people are like, I don't like this person because they're too friendly. People like them too much. If they were too much of a competitor, right? Which again, sometimes you don't need to compete. You just need to survive. And why do you have to come out ahead when you have to really judge what is the measure, right? It doesn't make sense to try and be number one and put your head on the chopping block if the top 50 will do. Falling somewhere in the middle is probably a good choice, right? And so you saw instances where people would form cliques and they would form these alliances, and that was not a good plan. But by forming these public alliances, now they got targeted by other people because people were scared of them. They're jealous. They perceive them too much as a threat. There were other people who were so weak that people just wanted to get rid of them because they didn't like them, because they felt like they were weak, and they didn't even want them on their team, and they felt like they were a danger because they were weak. And so you have all of that going on. And then the third thing about this is the luck factor, right? And so life is a lot luck, right? you have to have the social skills to make sure that because people can really harm you, right? If they choose to, right? In fact, Seneca, just to go back to this before we go to the luck, he was talking about this idea that you shouldn't piss off people in power. You should avoid that completely. And the reason why is because people can harm you pretty badly, right? And in fact, someone who isn't in power, someone who just is willing to sacrifice themselves can harm you if they choose to. So getting people angry, upsetting people is not really a good plan. It's just not a good plan in life. And you can suffer the consequences of that because people can do damage to you. And they have no consequence for that, or they're willing to accept the consequence in order to get back at you. But then we get to the element of luck, right? And life is like that as well. Right? Like I said with poker, is that a majority of the games had a large luck factor to them, right? You could say that a very large portion of the whole thing was based on luck, which actually makes the game very interesting because anybody could win. It makes you feel like anybody could win because there is this element, and that's why poker is such an interesting game as well. But when it comes down to luck, it's very true. You have to understand that in life, and again, I would recommend reading this book. You can really get a good grasp of this. Is that you have to focus on right action, not on results. Again, this also comes from Stoic philosophy, also in the letters there. You have to focus on taking the right action. If you take the right action all the time, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the result that you want, but it increases the likelihood. It is your best choice, right? And so there, when you come into that, if you came into the Squid Game challenge, no matter what you did, no matter how you played it, no matter how skilled you were, no matter if you did everything right, you would still have a very low chance of winning because there is so much luck involved. Now, if you did it 100 times, you would come out on top, or 1,000 times, you would start to come out on top. You would win multiple times. That's how poker works, right? And so really the best strategy in life, okay, is to really play the odds, to make the right action as much as possible and not worry about the results, but worry about making the right action. And if you continually do that, what's going to happen is eventually you're going to connect with luck. All right. And that happened for me in my career and in my life. And it's happened multiple times, right? I was the right guy in the right place at the right time when I started making courses for a company called Pluralsight when I was a software developer and got the opportunity to do that. But I also took advantage of that luck and I made a ton of courses, way more courses than anyone else. And I ended up making millions of dollars from doing that, right? I had opportunity for a book deal from doing that. Again, with YouTube, some of my success on YouTube was luck, but I was also the person who was there and who was working. And so a lot of the things that are going to happen to you in life are going to be based on luck, but you have to put yourself in the best position in order to take advantage of that luck, because you're going to get luck, bad luck, and good luck. Everybody will, right? It's just that who is positioned to take advantage of that good luck and make the most of it. So, just a lot of interesting things to think about in that show. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. I think it's really good. And real quick here, before I finish up, I do want to tell you about the Bulldog Mindset membership. That is the thing that I am focused on building up. I'm going to be rebooting this in January. I'm going to be upping the price to $100 a month. Right now, if you get in, you can get in at the lower price. I even have some lifetime memberships, which I'm probably going to have to do away with when I increase the price on this. But I have a whole catalog of personal development. If you're into this kind of stuff, if you like this channel, if you like learning how to improve yourself, how to grow as a man, how to learn how to be better with women, how to learn better social skills, how to start making money, building a business, investing in real estate, things like that, building your physique, building yourself, right? Developing the mindset and the grit that you need, the fortitude you need in life, and in understanding philosophy. If you're into all that kind of stuff, you're going to love the Bulldog Mindset membership, because that's what it's all about. And yeah, I'll just leave the link down below, and you can check that out. But yeah, so here's the thing, okay, with Squid Games and life, I would say that, the biggest takeaway that I have from all of this, which is that, look, you gotta realize that the game is unfair, that life is unfair, and that's okay. Because there's so many instances in that game where someone else screwed someone else over, even screwed an innocent person over, or it was just a roll of the dice that determined the outcome. And that's, you can't fight that in life, right? You can't. You have to decide to live by right action. And a lot of people, again, the last thing I'll say about this is that a lot of people got on that show, right? 400 and something people, okay? And every single one of those people was hoping to win that $4.5 million, all right? And that's what they really want to do. But if you really think about it, all of them had almost no chance of doing it, a very low percentage chance, right? Less than 1% chance of doing that, no matter how well they played. Yet, a lot of those people sacrificed their character and their legacy, how they would appear to the world, in order to try to increase their chances of getting that $4.5 million. And so the thing is, we do this sometimes, right? You need to figure out a way to live your life in a way that even if you don't get the reward, you would be happy with how you lived your life. Because there's a lot of people that are watching this program, and they're seeing people, and they're seeing their character, and those things live on the internet, or live in the world forever. And so a lot of people made some choices that are not the best choice, honestly. And we do this sometimes, right? I've done this before, and I haven't thought about the consequences of those choices, thinking that I'm going to get this reward. And sometimes you do get the reward, but sometimes it's not worth it. And so most of the time, it's not even gonna be what you think it is. And so you really got to think about, when you take action, when you do things, not about that result. If you're focused on the result, if you're focused on that money, you're going to make the wrong choices in life. You will, and you'll regret those choices. But instead, if you're focused on doing the right action, on developing yourself, on growing as a human being, on treating other people right, not to say that there's not times for competition and where you do have to compete and win. I'm all for that. But you got to be smart about it. And a lot of people weren't smart about that. And they sacrificed. They didn't even have a chance at winning the money, but they sacrificed their character on public television and let everyone know just how weak or depraved that they are. And that's a big price to pay with a very little payoff. So there you go. I'll see you tomorrow.